Hey, it's HP Munchcraft coming to you with the All Stats No Res podcast, the premier Dominions 5 podcast. And this week, I am joined by Charlie, Ravsier, Darkwolf, and Sauron as we cover the second part of our Indies episode. This has all been recorded before that I recorded this, but we will begin on tribal Indies.
All right, moving right along. Do we want to get into tribes?
Yeah, tribes and barbs.
Hey, you want me to start us off or not?
Yeah, go start us off.
Yeah, you got something to say about them.
Okay, so a lot of the tribes are gonna fill into a category where they're gonna fill a lot of the same roles. So the tribes are gonna be your N1 gateway for most nations in the game who do not have nature access. You should absolutely be making N1s almost as all nations, I would say, outside of ones that are nature primary. So you should be making this dude, I would say, in almost all your games, because they are your swarm access. They do point buff. They are cheap. They break you into the nature path. Like, you should absolutely be making this guy. The troops will probably have some disagreements in the podcast, but I would say in general, this is something you should be doing.
Why don't we start with the strongest one, Bone Tribe?
So Bone Tribe Mage is a no-brainer. He's Death 1, Air 1, so he breaks you into both those paths, and he fucking...
And the cross path.
And the cross path, and he will... you'll have to empower him or do some funky shit with boosters, but he will get you Wailing Winds in a pinch. So you absolutely fucking do that.
Wait, did you mention that he also gets you into Earth?
Yeah, he does.
He's air random and earth random. In
okay, yeah, I did not.
Yes, he is very good.
Also gets you into Earth.
By themselves, by the way, they will set up a corpse construct factory if for whatever reason you need that. So if you're an air primary nation like I don't know, Air U, that by itself will give you shock res chaff that you can use for whatever.
I think you should use
they have
them
a lot
in
of
general.
utility. No,
Yeah.
I mean they just have a lot of utility.
So that's the uncontroversial part of them is the mage, and I also think it's relatively uncontroversial to say that they are another primo PD dump province because you get a lot of them per gold, and they are very strong units. However, they're very killy units, I should say. However, I think they suffer the same problem that troglodytes and later barbs have, where if you are recruiting Bone Tribe infantry, if you're like actually just recruiting them, whereas the Indies, like the Independents, actually have a shitload of them on a province, like they're a proper tribe. When you actually recruit them, they're over 10 gold. They're like, what, 14, 13?
They're 14 or... I don't think they're quite 15, but I think they're 14 or 13.
Yeah, so I do not think they are worth it for that price. They cost more than most national infantrymen, and while they are very killy, they are also a follow-on troop. They are undisciplined, so you have to, you might be able to raid with them, but you really have to stop them from dying to stupid shit if you actually try to recruit them.
All right, let me give my take, or do you want to go, Charlie?
No, go for it.
Okay, I kind of disagree with HP. I think they have a use case. They absolutely can raid. I've raided with them before. You only need a small amount of them to kill 6 PD, which is going to be your most common PD type besides 1. I think they have use case in the sense of if you don't have Berserker access, which a lot of the nations in the game do not have Berserker access, this is one of the ways to get it, and you can use this to kill some of the unique situations you'll run into where you need a Berserker. So I think they absolutely have their uses. They are a little higher gold, but like Cynos, they're recruitable Berserker, which you don't always have.
Yeah, I like them a lot. I mean, there's pseudo elite stats that kind of justifies the higher gold costs. But again, the fact that they have a pretty strong Berserker stat and a pretty good weapon in Javelin combo, I don't know. I don't see how they can be considered bad. But yeah, you're right. I mean, like velocity-wise, you're not going to be getting a ton of them out very quickly.
I would also say it's they actually have like a good spear, which is surprising.
Yeah, they're good equipment.
Spears are pretty
Yes,
crap.
they have the...
Speed them.
Yeah, the Spadum. 7 damage, 2-handed weapon spear.
Yeah, it's sick nasty.
Is that a one-handed spear? No, that is a one-handed spear still. Yeah, it's holding it with two hands, still a one-handed spear.
Oh, come on. Don't pull some loose tactics in.
Easy clap.
Not to play.
Professor
Only say,
Dr. Razio.
okay, anyone who
That
doesn't
happens a lot in
know,
this game, okay? Just saying.
me referencing lucid tactics is just a little jab at him for making a national overview series and him not knowing his nation he's overviewing, in this case, EA Kalem. The sacred
Uh-oh, we better edit that out, call the Burnwood. Oh! No,
Yeah.
it's
If you're going to do a national overview, if you are a future YouTuber in Dominions, please look at your nation before recording. Please.
fine. No, I'm just gonna do.
Your PSA of the episode.
I'm gonna do all the nation's national overviews Dom 6 the day it comes out with absolutely zero looking at them beforehand. Yeah.
So it's a good spear.
Okay, so do we want to get into the other tribes?
Well, have you considered that the Bone Tribe, what is it, the Headhunter, is a pretty interesting commander, don't you think?
He's got like what, 100 leadership and a magic beat stick?
He's got 80 leadership, he's got a skull club, and he's got berserk force.
He's 100 gold. So he does give you lines, which is sometimes you don't have. Like if you are Vedheim, or not Vedheim. If you are ally Vedheim, you do not have lines normally. So this would be a commander that gives you lines, which is very uncommon.
He needs a
Is
temple.
there any other indie?
He's a sacred guy. He's a sacred indie commander with the magic beat stick. So he has a lot of very niche, very interesting uses. But yeah, he might be the only indie that gives you lines. Yeah, I think he is, or the only common indie that gives you lines. There might be something stupid in the sites, or like
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm not talking about the sites.
Yeah.
I don't even remember if
like
there
rare
is
indie types
other.
can give you goofy shit, but I think it's the only common indie that gives you lines, which is very interesting. Good. So Bone Tribe, hey,
love them.
All right.
Okay, let's talk in the next category of tribes. This is going to be your deer tribe, your woodsman, any guy that gives you the naked archers that are like 3 rec, 3 res. Any comments on these guys?
If you need a cheap short bow, it's your go-to. I love them.
Yeah, they're actually better than the archers you referenced earlier, HP, that of your 4 rise rec ones, because these guys are 3.
The difference is the undisciplined tag, but most of the time you just want volume anyways. You don't need them to be fire archers or something like that.
If you're running shit bows. So yeah, I tend to agree. I think like all these like just the regular tribal infantry and archers are all like shit, but they're not so shit that you should just be afraid of recruiting them, which I think a lot of players are. It's like, if you need to reinforce with tribals, like absolutely need to reinforce with tribals to make an expo party go that one more, do it. And if you need short bows, yeah, they cost no res or rec, so you can get them in large quantities immediately. So don't be like, oh, this unit's shit, so I should never, ever, ever recruit it. You should be like, okay, this unit's shit, but it's very easy to get a hold of. So in the off chance that the enemy is doing something that is killable by archers, I can immediately convert lots of gold into lots of arrows and put together an archer army almost as soon as I need it.
I would argue to say, like, the tribes are your Micklin killers. A lot of people put Micklin in that top tier, make some tribes and shoot them to shit. Because most people
think
don't
Micklin is a tribal killer because they have shields on their ranged units.
What about fucking barbs?
Overpriced.
Agreed. Barbs.
Yeah,
overpriced.
I don't like barbs.
Okay,
I don't like barbs.
One thing to mention: Commander, I believe, has pillager tag. Correct?
Yes.
So Commander has pillager tag, so you can do pillager cheese with the commander. And if you don't know what pillager cheese is, it's too complicated to get into. So moving on.
Well, no, hold on. The barb commander is also 35 gold, and he's 40 leadership, so he can do a lot of unique things with items. So he actually has more use cases than you think. Okay. He's similar to the caveman champion.
Also a good PD type, but also way too expensive to just buy the troops.
Yeah.
How about them? Jag tribe? Let's talk about those troops.
You know, Rob mentioned missile troops with shields. I actually kind of like the Jag tribe.
Yes, because you have slingers with shields. These guys are excellent baits. And if your opponent is doing some goofy ass archer duel type of thing, then you can out archer duel them. Because your guys will have shields.
I mean, they're standard human cost gold of 10. They get helmet, shield, sling, not undisciplined. I think they're a standout out of most of these tribal, like the normal tribals, obviously, not the bone tribe, but I like them a lot.
I agree.
I think
like
they're
light infantry, but better.
Yeah,
they're really solid, unironically, as a frontline holder.
So I'll.
I don't know if they're solid in that role, but they definitely can fill in a pitch. And
I mean, I would recruit them.
yeah,
Unironically.
I would as well.
So
Yep.
I will very quickly mention that the Jaguar Tribe Priest, if you are new, you're going to look at him and it's 10% random and go like, awooga, look at all these paths he breaks me into. But it's 4 paths and a 10% random, so that's 2.5% chance per path. So he doesn't break you into shit. So unless you have none of his paths, or like maybe only one of his paths on that 10% random, do not buy him to try to break you into blood or some shit. He will never break you into blood.
Joke's on you. Breaks you into debt.
Oh my
No, he
god.
doesn't.
No, he
The
doesn't.
Jaguar Tribe.
No, he doesn't.
Wait a minute. Dark Wolf. That's your tribe that breaks you into death.
No. I said debt.
Yeah, he said debt,
Like
not
being-
death.
Oh, fuck.
Break into debt.
With
'cause
a
they're-
beat.
Yeah, you just broke my joke.
Or
Fuck you.
I caught the joke, Dark Wolf.
Alright.
I
Thank you,
don't think
Charlie.
you should be making any of the tribes that are N1 for the randoms. Like, that should not be your primary reason. I think you should be making tribes in general for that N access, and if you get another path from it that you don't have, that is just a bonus.
That's just gravy.
If you have a 10% random, yeah, absolutely make it to break it in. It's hilarious. Like late game,
I think that's a terrible.
No,
that's a terrible
dude.
argument.
1 out
and
of 10
just-
is not terrible.
Just so you know the cycle. The cycle is Wolf Tribe Death, Deer Tribe Air, Bear Tribe Earth, and I think that's it. And Jaguar Tribe breaks you theoretically
Lion
into a
Tribe?
bunch of
Lion
shit, but
Tribe
realistically
Fire?
into nothing. What, Ruff?
Lion Tribe Fire.
Lion Tribe Fire.
I
Those
think
are the
Lion Tribe
secondaries.
is the only. We should just get into that one. The unique thing about Lion Tribe is you can just make them with a lab, and you do not need a temple, unlike some of
Yes.
these guys. So I think he is actually kind of ideal if you're trying to get some N1 access, because you can cheaply make them out of fort, and you'll actually mass them up decently fast.
Yes.
They have high map move too.
True.
And also, again, a very cheap archer.
I've never used the.
They don't have any armor, which is unfortunate. They're naked, but
They are naked. But when you want arrows, you want arrows.
Yeah, I mean,
8 morale. They're gonna run pretty quick.
it doesn't matter. You're
I
making
don't
archers
like
for
picking
volume.
turbos from, but yeah, I mean, you could still.
Yeah, I think they're still usable, but they're not as good as some of the other ones. I think it's fair.
I
They're more
don't. I
gold
think you
cost.
normally do not care about the morale of an archer, because if
Well,
they
what
get hit,
what do they normally cost? Is 10 gold the standard?
That-
I don't
it's
use
10
it.
gold for
is
most of the
standard.
tribes. Yeah, it's the standard for tribes and in the archers. So you do not. There's an outlier to that, but we haven't got to them yet. So generally, you do not care about the morale, because anything that touches them is going to rot them very fast.
So you just have
So
squads
you-
of 10. Lamau.
Yeah.
Oh, volume.
Yeah. So the second your archer gets touched, you don't care, because they're already dead essentially.
If you're going for volume of shortbows, yes. And not just using archers as a platform for buff cheese. But that's a totally separate topic.
You would not use this guy for buff.
Obviously not. Horse
Out of
tribe.
all these- Oh, I was gonna move on to Woodsman actually.
Oh, okay,
Just 'cause
Woodsman.
Out of all of them, it's the only one that's stealthy.
Is stealthy.
It is stealthy.
Blowpipes and-
Cuts it out that way, but also I am kind of sad that the sprite has gotten worse from Dominions 2. I think they had the best Dominions 2 sprite. That's just a little aside I want to throw out there.
They do have a very good Dominions 1 sprite. And then they have a shitty sprite
Yeah,
now.
1 and 2 sprite. Yeah. It looks awful these days, but yeah. Do you
Some
guys ever go to Woodsman?
I know people in the community have some interesting comments, specifically about the druid, which is attached to the woodman's type, because they like the stealthy. It's a 40 leadership stealthy. Or it might not be 40.
No, it's a
it might
10
be
leadership.
Yeah, it's a 10, but he's
Stinky.
stealthy and he's N1, so you can give him Black Heart, and people like doing that. But
Oh, that's
Well, most
funny.
people thought it was overcosted because the H1 is kind of not great.
they like the specifically the Black Heart play. I would agree with you that he's generally an overcosted N1, but
I am a woodsman druid advocate for a couple of reasons. One is that nations with stealthy sacreds, like that's great. He's usually cheaper than whatever elf bastard is leading them around. And then the other thing is, as a cube Sherpa, you really want your cubes to be stealthy in order to ambush people with them, so that you could just patrol out of a province and ambush them. So just having a stealthy guy with magic leadership who can just lead your cubes around, and he has some like very basic buffs he could cast on them, but like just being able to have a stealthy guy to lead cubes and jump out of stealth with them, so you could run something over is I think an
does he only
advantage.
Pretty
does he
good.
only have 5 magic leadership, or is it more?
Yeah,
I could
but
be wrong.
when are you going to need more than 5 cubes? Come on.
It depends, but sure,
Well, if you need
I know
more
where
than
you're
5
coming from.
cubes, make more and more of them.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, just
I
make more
guess.
druids.
Yeah,
I do think that being a stealthy mage has some inherent value, and in my opinion, if you are conscious of what you want to use that stealth for, it's going to be worth the cost most of the time.
I agree.
Agree.
sure.
Woodsman blowpipes. I wish they were good, but they actually just
They're
suck.
cool.
Bad?
I wish they were
I don't
good.
know.
There's
I-
very
They need a
I've
buff
never
in
made
Dom
them,
6.
ever.
they're
They need a buff. They unironically not
I feel
a
like
lot
they
of
would be
uses.
good against people without shields now.
No, they're just trash. If they were disciplined, you could maybe do some interesting
much-
stuff
Oh,
with
they're
them.
okay. They're on this.
they're undis.
Yeah,
their
they're-
damage is bad.
All of them
They
are-
do
You would
paralyzing
need
poison,
to
but
screen for them, and I don't think you can very easily because of the
If they could fire and keep distance, I think that would be pretty cool. But
they'd be a good
Well, with
bait,
8
at
range,
least.
they're going to get caught sometimes.
well, yeah, but the lower the range is kind of better when you're doing fire and keep distance because you'll get really close and they'll start running. And
they
you
should
kinda-
hit. Yeah, they have.
They
11,
should Benny
so they
Hill.
hit.
You can Benny Hill some
Right?
units.
Yeah, you're talking about the fucking Zabalba blow darts. Yeah, absolutely. Those things are excellent baits. Just Benny Hill people all across the map. Lead them right into the people who are going to beat their ass.
Yeah. Otherwise, they don't really have a use.
Okay.
But the Woodsman Archers, I think, are the same tier as Deer Tribe Archers. They fill that short bow niche.
Aren't they are more expensive now because of the stealth?
No, they're both
Yeah,
10 gold.
actually. I think
They're-
it's 10 gold, right?
They're just 10
Yeah,
gold.
there's 10 gold.
They get
Alright.
They're not
okay.
more expensive.
Yeah, I'm going off the inspector here. The inspector likes to lie about.
Yes,
His
that's
Spectre
very
lies
true.
all the damn time.
So I
Absolutely.
need to double check all this.
What about them
All right.
horse tribe? I think the only notable thing about the horse tribe, because horse tribe units are again bad and overcosted compared to how they are when the indies get the hordes of them, but the horse tribe leader is notable because he has a very high defense skill on a recruitable leader, and so is another like counter thug GSS item holder type of dipshit.
Yeah, also one of my favorite indie commanders to recruit, just like ferry your troops around or even lead small squads because of high mobility and like low resource costs.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I appreciate him for that.
Very
I think they're
the horse-
phenomenal.
The horse tribe are one of the most annoying provinces to expand into, just because of the high defense can kind of stop your momentum in its tribe. But you're right. I typically, nobody really recruits horse tribe, unfortunately.
Because they're 20 fucking gold.
Well, they don't. They're light caps, so they don't get a hoof attack.
I think we need a moment.
They have short bows with bad precision.
Yeah, you'd
Well, I got some news
Maybe.
for you, Charlie, and there are going to be some changes being made in
Oh!
6.
Uh-oh!
So who knows?
That's
see
true.
We'll see if light cavalry get their hooves back, and if those...
Oh, that'd be nice.
I hope so. It'd be funny.
That might make them viable, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's,
Oh, one thing I want to just... I don't know why this is a thing. I just want to bring this out there. I know we're not talking about sites, but Horse Brothers, which are like the most obvious comparison to Horse Tribe, for whatever reason, Horse Tribe do get a light lance, but Horse Brothers only get a spear, so they don't get that additional bonus on the first charge. and I have no idea why.
Probably doesn't matter because they're both
Make
archers.
Horse Tribe good again.
Yeah.
You mean Horse Brothers? But yes.
Make Horse Tribe good for the first time. Oh.
It's possible that it won't
They were probably good in Dom.
I doubt it.
Maybe other players have more comments about like cavalry archers, but I've never really found success. Yeah, if they weren't overcosted, I would kind of understand people's viewpoint. But in general, they're like a high defense archer, which is not useful.
I think the issue will always be the way that Dominion's battle simulations are like a very small section, if that makes sense. Because, like, realistically, their actual niche is you put them on fire and keep distance, and they circle the enemy. But the map isn't big enough for that.
And the AI does not support it either.
Right.
Yes.
I don't think the AI would
be put on
do
the edge
that.
of the map.
Yeah, they would just retreat.
They just run away as long as they...
There might be some hidden tech. I guess this is not topic related, but it kind of is. There might be some tech with horse archers in the game, but in general, I'm leaning towards their overcosted units.
So
maybe
there is a hidden tech with light cavalry, which were so bad that we didn't even mention them, and then the cavalry commanders, generally the Horse Tribe commanders, is that if you are fighting an army fight, right, and your enemy thinks, to bait you, and is being very stingy with his baits, only having a couple of units to bait, you can absolutely throw in 3 attack orders on your fucking commander to have them run forward, skewer their scout, and then have a retreat order at the 4th or 5th slot, or the final slot, and then have them go in, skewer their scout, and then run away, or fire and keep distance, and then run away after, so you don't lose the unit once you've killed their bait. It is very niche. I have done it once, and it is goofy, but you can do that.
We probably should have touched on that, I guess, when we were in the beginning, because there's a mounted commander that can do the same role, I suppose.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll just say it. Yeah, it is very goofy, but it's doable. How about them? Let's talk about some less than human, or perhaps more than human troops. How about them Hoburgs?
Hoburgs are an interesting one. They are another N mage, but they do have stealthy, and they can break you in earth, I believe. They're kind of an interesting one, but they have low HP and low map move, so they're I would say they're almost like a less good N1, but I guess it depends who you're talking.
High defense, low HP.
I
don't know.
I think the Hoburg N1 is a really good guy, just because he's a stealthy.
Isn't that from an event site? Am I wrong there?
No, you're wrong.
Well, you're right and you're wrong. There is an event site that gives it, but it is also present in some Hoburg pop types.
Okay.
The Hoburg units themselves, I believe the militia, they're 6 gold. I don't remember if they're better patrollers than militia, but otherwise, if they're not patrolling, they don't really have a use case. And then the other Hoburgs that you'll see are the Hoburg Knights, the Hoburg Crossbows, which a lot of people like, and the Hoburger Burgmeister Guard.
Oh, yeah.
The Hoburger?
Burgmeister Guard, kick ass.
Burgmeister Guard. Yeah, I slurred my words there. But yeah.
I have not seen a use for Hog Knights yet, but I do
they're
think
cool.
They're what?
I just said they're cool.
True. It is a hobbit riding a pig, so you definitely want to.
What you do is you hold Alt, you click Tab, and you open COE, and then you use them where they're balling.
True.
That's an HP. How many independent mounted units have 19 defense?
True. Maybe I should rethink them.
5 hit points.
They're
okay,
size?
Well, 5 hit points
might
be an issue.
They're size 2 though, right? So you could have 3 of them a square.
Yeah.
And you can point buff them. Hell yeah.
21 defense at most with
The
quickness.
Burgmeister
5 hit points just means that they take luck better.
The Burgmeister Guard have, I want to bring those up because they are a size 1. You get 6 of them per square. Their movement sucks, so you have to bring the enemy to you. But they have good defense and good prot and point buff up a storm. So if you're not already in size 1, then they are, I think, if you're like in Astral 1 and you're not in like size 1, then I think they're a really good pickup. And you could just lock them
Yeah.
up. And
They're the most elite Hoburg.
true.
They are a little more rare to find, I think, throughout the ages. You'll see them most commonly in LA, but otherwise, if you see them and you can recruit them, they're pretty worthwhile, I would say.
So I also want to bring up the crossbow because it is the most massable crossbow, and so it is, in a sense, good because it is the most volume of fire, like the cheapest. You can just get these with Hoburgs. You don't even need a fort. You can just get them out of their indie province just fine. They're very low rec points, but it's like very good when you want a shitload of crossbows. But again, players overbuild, in my opinion, overbuild crossbows. So you'll see people like taking these as like an all-stars unit, or like they're like, oh, it's the best unit you can get the Hoburg crossbow, and it's like, no, don't just mindlessly recruit them. Recruit them when you know that crossbows can kill something.
You should probably point out what All Stars is briefly. But All Stars is like a draft format, so someone has picked that unit to be able to recruit on the roster. I actually am not a big fan of size 1 archers. I kind of feel like it's better when your archers are more spread out. And being a smaller archer means that there's more of them in a square. And the big problem with archers, or at least short bows, you could argue all I suppose, is if that square gets hit, then your guys are going to run, and generally archers are flimsy. So it's kind of a negative, in my opinion, to be smaller as an archer. But you do get more of them.
Yeah. On the other hand, crossbows as a missile weapon is not relying on strength. So I think it's probably one of the best weapons you can put as a ranged weapon on a smaller unit. Anyway.
I don't think they have full crossbows. I think theirs are like
They do.
damage.
The light crossbow, right?
They do?
They have normal ones.
Oh shit! I thought that was patched.
Yeah, they're decent. They're decent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they have decent
they
damage.
Have 10 damage. They have 10 damage.
So it's
they're
full
like one less
damage.
than the normal unit.
It's full damage for 7 gold, and you get less HP.
Yeah,
I think
they're good.
I don't think they're 7 gold. I think
They are.
They're 7. They're 7
Are
gold,
they?
7.
4 res or something like that.
Oh,
Something
I
like
thought they
that.
were 8, but
I think it's slightly. Hmm.
I don't know.
I've
Do
made
we
them.
trust? Do we? No, they're definitely 7. I think.
We don't
Do we
trust the
trust
mod
the
inspector for
inspector
shit.
on resources though? Resources should be
Occasionally.
right.
They're very cheap, regardless.
There are only
Like,
3 resources.
I don't know if they're 3 resources. That could be wrong. That doesn't.
Either way, they're very cheap.
They're worth recruiting, I think.
When you need a crossbow,
Okay,
they
they're not
are
free.
the best crossbow, but like best indie crossbow when you're just getting volume of fire. But you know, again, I think people will just recruit them mindlessly and not think about like, do crossbows actually solve my problems?
True.
Yeah, I would be in agreement.
All right, moving on to lizards.
Hell yeah!
Love me some elite warriors.
Yes, but these warriors aren't elite. These are just like what, the lizard warrior?
Yeah, he's on disc. Aren't they on
No,
disc?
they're not on this.
Oh,
I don't
okay,
think
okay.
so.
You're probably right.
To the mod
For some reason, I
inspector.
thought they were undisclosed. Oh, now I'm a hypocrite. But
No, they're not on.
yeah, lizards in general are one of the better indies you can find in the game. You should absolutely fight players over these. If you do not have S access, this is the indie you will start wars over. You should absolutely get this guy and make the mage. The units are more of a controversial spot. They do hit very hard with a 20 damage trident, and they have a bite attack, so they're not bad at all. But they are like 14 gold or something, or 13 or 14 gold. I remember it being unusually high.
They're 14 gold and they die, so that's the bad
Yeah,
news. But
And they're generally
That's just not bad.
however, they do kill. They do. I would rather recruit these than barbs if I'm recruiting an independent follow-on troop, I'd probably rather recruit these than Bone Tribe, but that's controversial.
That's a CA.
Well, they shred chaff. That's really their job.
So
Well, it's worth pointing out that they normally spawn in swamps, though, so you're not really going to be making them.
it is one of the cases again where the indies get a horde of them, and if you want a horde of them, then you're like out of money. But
That's the core Dominions issue.
I do think it is worth mentioning that they absolutely shred. So it is occasionally worth it to just make some of these guys to go in behind your like dorky shield guys who block, and then just have them coming around the flanks once the battle's already started and start shredding things that are already engaged.
They are an indie 2 attack unit. Granted, we did kind of gloss over some of the other 2 attack ones, but they were undisciplined. So being able to give them orders and them having 2 attacks is a boon. I really do wish in Dominions we had some ability to rip undisciplined off of indies and other national units in general. You could do a lot more.
Rumor has it that Beastmaster gets that ability in Dom 6. So we'll see.
Interesting. Maybe inspirational could do this.
Maybe.
That would be a really cool thing.
Maybe it could give you a reason to make some of the better commanders a little bit more often. I would be okay with that.
Yeah, undisciplined, unironically, I think is a super negative trait, and being able to remove it would, I think, give a lot of utility and play to nations in general. But we'll see if Illwinter ever does that.
Alright, so moving on, we have the Raptor clan. These are fairly easy and non-controversial. They are a very rare indie type, and a very good, in my opinion, indie type. They just give you flyers, so they break you into flying, and they give you a death dude. I think maybe sometimes a death air dude, depending on what the dice roll says. But they are basically just overall just entirely a positive. If you're not Calum, you don't generally have flyers, so you want some birds of your own, and you could set up raiding or counter raiding squads to be like a little bit of Calum, and then they break you into death as well with another flying guy, so like that's just more positive.
Yeah, I would be in agreement that they're generally a pretty good indie. You just don't see them as much. I feel like maybe there's a bug in the code why we don't see them as much.
No, they're a rare indie type. They have. Yeah. Also, if you actually look at indie types, because I've modded them, a lot of them, what your brain will do is it'll gloss over a type and be like, oh, that's just a normal human, right? But then if you actually look at the indie types, the way it's weighted is that there's like 7 or 8 like just like different light infantry, militia, just like normal shitter human like pop types, because they have like all those like barely distinguishable, like, oh, this guy costs more resources because he has a like chainmail cod piece or whatever. And so like you have a bunch of your indie slots are filled with these like just different human indie types that are like very similar. And then so the rare ones are made even more rare by the fact that like there's so many just like, oh, this is just yet another normal dude. Like the Scout province is a different pop type than the Priest province, which is a different pop type from.
Well, it's more than that. I just feel like some of the indies should have a higher likelihood of spawning in particular types. Like Raptor Clan is unique, I believe, to highlands and mountains, so that you should see them, and you might even see them in caves, but don't quote me on that.
I don't think so, but we'll see.
But what I'm trying to say is, like, some of these indies should be more likely to spawn in their respective type, and I feel like some of the humans shouldn't be spawning in the highlands and stuff, and that should be, like, to give you more variety in the game. But that's kind of off topic, kind of not.
All right, monkeys.
I am a big fan of the monkey PD type. This is your actual cheapest short bow in the game. And you get stealthy, but it's very hard to use Atavi infantry and Atavi archers. I personally have done testing with expanding with Atavi infantry. You need a lot of them to do it, but they are usable. But generally, raiding commanders do not have line formation, which is how you use them.
Yeah.
So
But I am an Atavi Chieftain stan as well.
yeah, I
I
think
do like
this is
that as a
generally positive. It just gives you a stealthy commander, if nothing else, and then the other monkey units, they're shit, but they're very cheap. So if you ever have a need for them, you can get them if you want them.
They're good
They
patrollers,
are,
notable.
I was about to say they are good patrollers. They're above militia efficiency.
1.2, I believe, per one. Okay, so there's an interesting section in Dominions where sometimes you want to be broken into water and you don't have a national path. This is going to be your Ichthyeids, Amber Clan, and Marrows. Notably, out of those, Marrows give you earth and water, so they're a very good indie. So if you're like, why would I ever go in the stinky, smelly water? That is definitely a reason. Out of all of these, I think the Ichthyeids are the notable troop type. But let's let the other guys talk.
Yeah, so talking about just the coastal ones and not the underwater ones, Ichthyeids, it's a recruitable net, which is very good. Also, you just, they're cheap enough that you can just mass Ichthyeids and go underwater with them. So it's just a good one to have when you get a coastal province with Ichthyeids, and then you get to start taking lakes that you normally wouldn't get to as a land nation. Shamblers are more rec points and shittier, so they're just like a worse version.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of
They're
Shambler.
pretty heavy.
Yeah, I'm not a
too.
shambler. So.
Yeah, so they're just stone worse than Ichthyeids, but if you need to go underwater with Shamblers and Atlantean militia, you can do that. It sucks, but it is what it is. If you're
Isn't
a
it
land
normally-
nation, it's worth it to take that water province.
Don't you normally get turtle? What are they called? Turtle
Oh,
warriors?
Turtle
Turtle
Warriors.
Tribe.
Turtle Tribe are pretty good. They're basically just a light infantry, but it's also amphibious.
Yeah. They're a little
Yeah, you
harder
would-
to mass, but that's okay.
They're based off of the site, right? A lot of times.
Yeah, but a lot of coastal
I think it's like a
indies
turtle
are
tribe
I-
village.
from common sites like a Shambler village.
Yeah. Shamblers, I think, can just be a coastal type, but I might be wrong.
I think
Turtle
under-
Tribe are
they can be a coastal
site-based.
I think they can be a coastal type if they're in a province with Atlantean militia. But there's also a Shambler village.
Oh,
Yeah.
now that you brought them up, that it would be your underwater massing troop, the Atlantean militia.
No,
Granted,
don't
even
make
with-
them. They're garbage. Don't have
Even
to
with
make
sets
them.
of 80 of them, they will sometimes still route. Maybe there's hidden tech to get these
The-
bastards not to route, but
The-
you probably will be massing them if you don't have a means of getting underwater.
They are trash, but yeah, you can just make like
If
40 of
you-
them and raid some fucking underwater shitter back. Lol.
If you have nothing else.
You're right.
Yeah, they're the bare bones,
This is
but
the
you
bottom of
will
the barrel.
Okay. Amazons?
Amazons?
They're running through this.
Love
But-
me and some Amazon.
All right, so obvious shit first. The Amazons come in a cycle where you have the Garnet, Onyx, Crystal, and Jade, each one with a wizardry spell and a sorcery spell combo that completes a cycle so that all the magic paths in the games are represented by Amazons. Obviously, every time you see an Amazon, if you don't have those magic paths, they're always worth getting, especially the blood one that breaks you into blood. It's just so insane. So
Another indie type to go over a war for.
yes, so that's
You should absolutely declare war on your neighbors over Amazons.
they can completely change the outcome of a game, but that's the non-controversial thing, right? So that's like easy. That's the most important thing, but that's like also the easy thing. Then the second most controversial or the second most non-controversial thing is you have the Amazon like basic spear lady, and they're universally just kind of crappy and not worth their cost. They're like a medium infantry, which is okay, but it's like you're generally never going to be
I
like.
think they're worth
Aren't they
recruiting.
overcosted?
I think
They're like
12.
more than 10. Yeah, they're more than
They
10
are.
gold. I don't like.
They have higher than. They're pseudo elite. That's why.
They have higher defense, I think.
Yeah, I think they have like
And
16
attack
defense
skill.
skill.
Depend-
I'm not
No,
a big
they
fan
have
of
+1 across the board in morale, attack, defense, etc. I think,
But-
but they have one
minus one strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There might be an argument for making some of them. I'm not as hard on them as I was with like the indie heavy infantry.
Garnets have fire res, if that matters.
That does matter. Yeah.
Yes and no.
They are also more expensive.
I would say notably, some of these have sacreds that come with them.
All
The
of
jade
them?
in particular
Yes.
can be worthwhile.
I was,
But I would
uh,
say,
Yeah, they all have
I
a
was
sacred
getting to
variant.
that. So the downfall of most of their sacreds is that they're generally a little overcosted, and most of these go in not high pop provinces, and they all cost a bunch of recruit points. So if you really want to use their sacreds, you have to fort them.
well,
In
you generally
sizable
want
numbers.
to fort the province in general.
True.
To get the mages, yeah.
So,
I think the most usable one is probably the Jade Maiden, right?
yeah,
I
Griffin
actually think
Rider?
that most of these are usable.
Night
I would disagree. The Onyx one is utter trash. 10 encumbrance
Uh,
is dog shit.
See that's where you're wrong. The Onyx one is unusable as like a sacred. I'm gonna buff it up and just send it in. However, it has a fear aura. So what you do is you send
fear
it in
aura.
behind your front line and just let that fear aura tickle the enemy until they're out. So,
All right, that's a
Like,
use case.
sparingly, I think that's fine. Yeah, that is fine.
I mean, it's better in that case if you're using them as a fear totem
yeah,
to fall
you
asleep.
literally just use them as a fear turret. It's funny as hell.
I hadn't actually thought about that. That's a cool use case. You don't see them too. I feel like Onyx are the rarer of all of these, but
Well, that's because Highlands are also.
I
rare
think
coming.
Jade and Crystal just seem to pop up more than the other two.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, Jade,
Yeah.
I think, are forest and swamp.
Wait, Garnet are only Waste, and I think Onyx are only Highlands, right?
Right. Yeah.
that sounds
Yeah.
right. That's probably why they're
And
Yeah.
as
Jade are
Crystal are
normal
like
province.
plains, I think.
Or yeah,
So
you're
they
right.
show up a
Crystal are
lot.
plains, and Jade.
And Griffin Riders are cool, but you're not getting them out of Wastes like a lot. Like you can make like one a
True.
tournament.
You can make one
you
a turn
find
with
them
them.
this is
If you
capped,
could
you're not gonna
manage-
find them.
If you can
Oh.
manage to get Griffin Riders and you already have a strong bless, obviously all these are contingent on your bless. You never want them with the morale +1. You would never buy any of these except maybe the fear turret with the morale +1. But
Wait,
if you have a like good cavalry bless already, and then you get another province with sacred cav, yeah, I would say that's worth recruiting.
okay. I want to point something out. This is the All Stats No Res podcast. If you're taking stats, these guys are pretty nasty if you only have recruitable
Hell yeah!
sacreds. So you should absolutely make these guys if you're running stats, because all of a sudden they're pretty nuts indies.
Yep.
It's very true.
And I think the Crystal Tribe one have a pretty
Pegasus, right?
shitty Pegasus, but if it's a
True.
stat cav, then I think it turns out decently, and it
It's a
flies.
flying sacred that you
Yeah.
can script.
Indeed.
They still have 2 attacks.
They are kind of shit, but
Well, 19 defense.
I have seen people blob those ones up in particular and die in mass because they're probably one of the worst out of all of these.
They're
They
bait.
just don't have the prop, I think.
I think if you like, well,
If you buff them, they're not bad.
or if you raid with them, or if you just have enough stats on them, like already that they can be good. I think
True.
it's like
Defense
usable.
stacking, they would be fine, right?
Yeah,
I feel like
absolutely.
out of all the stats, that's probably the one you're gonna have the most. You're generally gonna have 5 defense if you're taking heavy stats, or you're gonna have at worst have 3. So yeah, you're gonna probably get a lot of boon out of this if you're running stats. I would recommend going 5 versus 3, but it depends on your nation and your bless.
Hell yeah.
Is there anything else about the Amazons? Obviously, garnets break you in the blood, and that can be a big deal. And jades give you the loved moss body path, which you want a lot of the time.
Pretty
And
important,
foul
yeah.
vapors. Jades are
And
insane.
foul vapors, yeah.
Foul
Jade's
vapors and
actually-
mouse.
Water nature, pretty good
Great
crossbow.
foul vapors.
Air Astral's pretty strong too, though.
Air Astral is pretty strong.
All of the Amazons are good.
Amazons are amazing. All right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it covers it.
any other indie types?
I'm trying to think. There are like, oh, okay. I'll go over this because I didn't write it down. There are unique, very rare indies that you generally
Yes.
probably won't see in your games. These are the trolls, but the biggest of these is the Earth King. If you have the fortune of seeing that province and noticing that you can make a Earth King, or sorry, the
Troll
Troll
King.
King.
Which is an Earth
You
3
should absolutely,
fucking bastard.
yeah, you should absolutely war on site whoever gets this motherfucker, because that guy normally is 55 Earth Gems, and all of a sudden you can make him for 300 gold, although he's 4 recruitment points.
It's
That's kind of
fine.
insane.
It's nutty.
It's nutty.
Yeah.
You get an Earth 3. It's big fucking
With
mage.
regen.
I don't know why it's in the game.
Pick him up on the dirt.
They recently added it in one of the patches, but that is one of the ones to absolutely declare war over. Like, but he's super rare. You're more likely to find stuff like steel ovens or the blood, whatever it is, mount chaining, than you are
There's
to
more
fight
of them,
him.
too.
We'll have to
Which
get
is
into
stupid.
the fucked up indie shit later because
Yeah,
there's like.
we will have a separate episode on sites in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
But
The only
Well,
other
not-
indie we didn't talk about is forest trolls, but they're equally as rare. They're trolls in general.
Equally as rare. Come on.
They're less rare, but they're still rare. And most of the
They're
time,
still up in there.
They're
You don't see
one
them
of the
a lot.
things where you see something on the map, and usually when you take it, it's like you're not getting that. You're getting slingers or some shit.
Yeah, like you're like, oh, cool, it's a forest troll province, and then it's like, no, you can't recruit those. I think equally as rare, you can find the forest troll one that's recruitable, but I've seen him maybe like once. He's super
Yeah.
rare, but he's in the same case as the Troll King. You're gonna declare war over. If someone, for some reason, you're in the early game and someone is walking around with, Troll Shaman X, you're like, huh. You did not
come
spend
from?
over 100 gems to summon this guy. You clearly have a province that has this, and you want to fight them immediately.
Yeah, and steal it from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're in a unique case. I would say they're the same cases like Garnets, as Amazons and Lizards. Like, you're gonna fight people over these.
All right.
And
So,
Cynos would probably equally be in that territory. We didn't really talk about the Cyno Mage,
Yeah.
which
They're mages
people will
too.
get mad about.
okay. Well, I was hoping to talk about troops and not so much about the mages. That's why it's running so long. But yeah, the Cyno Mage is insane. It's got 2 non-linked randoms that are in different paths, and it breaks you into like 6 fucking paths or something. It's absolutely nutty.
No, only 5.
Only 5. Only
No,
5.
there's
5.
There's 2
Only
nations.
5.
Yeah, so there's like it's an astral, a nature, an air, like I think an air,
Earth
a
and
death,
death,
and
yeah.
an earth, like, and I forget how they're linked. It's something screwy. They're just a nuts, like, they
So
just
you
break
can
you into all
get
that shit.
You should put
Nature
a.
with anything, right? But you can also get death with air or earth, or astral with air or earth. So
You should probably make a graphic like your dummy's guide to when to declare war on your neighbor. And it's like, do they have these indies? That's
Way to
you
declare
fucking do
war
it.
over indies. So I'm thinking to end this episode out. We think indies are Pog, right? Recruiting indies.
yeah, I don't think that was ever.
for
in
the most
contention.
part,
I
Pog.
think most Pog is
Yeah,
hell.
definitely
All
pod.
right.
Again, it's just further tools that, like, imagine a world where you couldn't recruit indies. Like, that's just be a more boring game. I think.
Oh, but that's how some players play, and they're absolutely deranged.
But the difference is they can make indies. They choose not to, and that's their prerogative. But I think our general takeaway: build troops, guys.
Yeah, build troops.
and if all
Please.
else fails, build independent commanders.
Yeah.
You should absolutely be
I
making.
can't imagine
independence.
a single game where nobody builds an independent commander. It's got to be impossible.
Okay,
That's-
that has been your Pog or dog. No, fuck. Sorry, no. Let me unfuck up the outro. That has been your all stats no res episode 6 on indies. We don't have a topic for next week, so you're just gonna have to listen and find out what we make it. See you all next time.